because people in your life will identify you. Hell would love to give you an identity tonight. There are people around you that would love to identify you. But please hear me. You can only be fulfilled and you can only find who you're truly meant to be if you allow, I'm going to jump ahead of myself here, but if you allow God to identify you, if you allow God to speak to you directly and say, this is why you were put on this earth. This is who I created you to be. I have plans for you. I have a planned future for you. You are called for a purpose. You are supposed to do something with your life. And please hear me tonight, young man or young lady. Don't you ever doubt that God has a plan and a purpose for your life. And whatever experiences you've gone through in your life, and whatever good or bad may have happened to you in your life, God knows how to use it and work it for your good. God knows how to shape it into your own personal testimony. And God knows how to do nothing that you go through in life will disqualify you from the plan and the purpose of God. Nothing that you faced in your life has the power to disqualify you from who God has called you to be. You have a plan. You have a purpose. God is calling you to do something. You have to let God answer those questions for you. Why is that so important? Again, I've already said it, because you have people, you have influences in your life that are more than happy to define you. And it's possible, I want you to catch this with me tonight. It is possible. Because your neighbor say, it's possible. Say it again, because you got to catch that. It's possible for my friends in my life to be happy with the person that I am, and yet me know what it is to lay in the bed at night and cry and ask God why I am the way I am, and not be happy and content with who I am. We know what it is for our friends to think that everything is okay. Everything is great in my life, and they're happy with what I project to be around them. Because again, we've already said the great paradox of life is that I want to be accepted. I want to fit in with those around me. So all of us know what it is to put on that smile and put on that facade so that people will accept me, and people will look at me on the outside and say, oh, I accept you, and we get validation from that, only to go home at night, only to get along with ourselves and not be fulfilled and not be happy with who we are. And it's no wonder. It's no wonder that we do this, because I'm trying to live in a way that brings you fulfillment and not me. I'm trying to live in a way that makes you happy with the person that I am and not really making me happy with who I am. And I'm having to do things, and I'm having to say things, and I'm having to dress certain ways. I'm having to do all these things to fit in with you, and you like what I am making myself into. All the while, deep down inside of me, I'm not content. I'm not happy with who I am. Something inside of me is not fulfilled. And you see, so many of us young people tonight, even though some of us might not like to admit it, we all know what it is to put on that mask and be something that we know deep down inside we are not. We all know what it is to put on another persona when I go to school and fit in with those around me at school because I want to be accepted, all the while knowing I'm not being true to what I felt in an altar. I want to be accepted by this boy, or I want to be accepted by this girl. So I change certain things about me because I want that validation and I want to fit in. All the while knowing deep down inside I'm not being true to who God has called me to be. I'm not being true to what I felt in prayer in an altar. I'm not being true to what I felt when a man of God laid his hands on my head and I felt calling and I felt purpose. But I've got to be accepted by those around me. So I'm willing to change. I'm willing to shift. I'm willing to become something that I know I'm really not supposed to be. And that keeps me looking for who I really am. Because I want you to hear me tonight, young man, young lady. You can please everybody around you and yet still have a hole deep down inside of you. It doesn't matter what activity you get involved in. It doesn't matter how great your grades are. It doesn't matter how great your plans are. It doesn't matter how good you look or how good you sound or how well you know the lingo and how well you relate to them. There will always be something inside of you that lacks that fulfillment. That lacks. Why is that? Because God has placed something inside of you that only He can feel. God has put something inside of you that only He can feel, that only He can be fulfilled. Tonight, young man, young lady, you may not have found yourself yet. You may be wondering, who am I supposed to be? But if you can get close to God, I promise you, God already knows who you are. God already knows who you are called to be. God's already ordained and ordered your step. And what you've got to do to find yourself is not travel the world. It's not go experience all that the world has to offer. It's to get on your knees at an altar and say, God, what have you called me to be? God, what is your purpose for my life? Yet oftentimes we get sucked up and we fall into the trap of, I've got to go experience things in the world to find myself. See, the prodigal son, he fell into this same exact trap. He thought, I've been sheltered in my Father's house, which is a type of the church. And many times we find ourselves saying, I've been sheltered in this environment, and we feel like we are missing out, and that is the great lie of hell, telling you right now, tonight, that you're missing out on things, and that you need to be experiencing certain lifestyles, and you need to be experiencing certain things that the church preaches against, and they won't let me go here, and they won't let me go do this. And the prodigal son had that rebellious spirit, and he's trying to find himself, and no doubt he leaves his father's house wealthy, saying, I'm going to go discover the world. I'm going to go discover who I was meant to be, only to realize that the world really stripped him of everything that he thought he was. And friends, again, friends that I'm sure were happy with who the prodigal son was. They were happy with his money. They were happy with his talent. They were happy with his personality. They were happy with all of those things. But yet when those things ran out, they cast him aside. They cast him away. And he's left still trying to find out what his purpose is and who he really is. I can prove it to you. I can prove it that people can be happy with who you are and yet you not be fulfilled in yourself. David is a great example of this. David's brothers are happy with who he is as long as he stays in a field tending sheep. They're happy with who he is as long as he stays in his place and serves them and brings them food for the battle. But the moment that David begins to step into his God call, the moment that David begins to step in the ordained anointing and ministry that God had for him, his brothers begin to talk bad about him. And they begin to say, we're not happy with who you're trying to be. Who do you think you are, trying to be something that we know you're not? But what they didn't realize is that is who David was meant to be. God had anointed him for that moment and that time. That's why it matters who you surround yourself with, because if they're comfortable with you in a sinful lifestyle, if they're comfortable with you gossiping and you backbiting, the moment that you get to an altar and start trying to pray more and pursue God more, they're going to look at you and say, who do you think you are? What do you think you're doing trying to pursue God with all your heart? Don't you know that you live this lifestyle, that this is your identity? But oh, I went to God that a young man and a young lady would make up in their mind tonight that I'm not going to let those influences, I'm not going to let those voices stop me from being everything God has called me to be. Stand to your feet and lift your voice and clap your hands. Come on, I need you to help me preach right now. Stand to your feet and lift your voice and clap your hands. Oh, in the name of Jesus. And I make up in my mind that this is my identity. This is who I am. You may be seated. What are you saying tonight, brother? Here's what I'm saying tonight. You don't catch anything else tonight, you got to catch this. If you pursue the favor and the blessing of man, it will always cause you to assume a different identity. But the moment you begin to pursue the will and the plan and the purpose of God for your life, it will always cause you to take the mask off. Pursuing the favor of man will cause you to put a mask on, and pursuing the favor of God will cause you to take the mask off. And that's why altar call is not just a tradition that we observe. It's a moment where I can take the mask off and say, God, I need you to touch me. I need you to heal me. I need you to restore some things in me, God. There's something inside of me you've got to do, God. Because you've got to identify me. You've got to identify me. And it was in the moment that Jacob begins to pursue the will and the favor of God that he takes the mask off and God can bless him. And I've come to preach to some young people tonight that you've had a mask on. And you know what it is for life to cause you to put on a mask. You know what it is for life to cause you to hide behind your grades. to hide behind your plan for your life, to hide behind whatever activities that you're involved in, and that becomes your identity. Oh yes, I know what it is to hide behind the fact, and I can only use myself as an example, to hide behind the fact that, oh, well, I play basketball. I'm a baller. And when I walk into the gym that I go to, the health place in Clinton, many of you know that I do, I play basketball with guys almost every day. But you know what? The tragedy would be if the guys that I come in contact with on a daily basis that I play basketball with, if they only knew me as a basketball player and never knew me as a minister. And I could be comfortable hiding behind the fact of, man, just give me the ball and I'll shoot threes and we'll play basketball. And that'll be great. And that will identify me to you. And I'll identify myself to you as a guy who plays basketball. And we all know what it is to go through life hiding behind these little things that identify us. And I'm the smart kid, or I'm the athletic kid, or I'm the one that's gifted in all of this thing and that thing, and I do this, and I have the best style, and I can do this. And we all have these little things that try to identify us, and we're comfortable in our little identities that we've created for ourselves. And we all have that little comfort zone in our lives. But God forbid that we would go through life in these little comfort zones in our lives of saying, this is my identity, when God's knocking on our heart's door, trying to get us along with Him and bring us to a moment like He did for Jacob and say, yes, but I'm trying to get deeper in you. I need to know who you really are. I need you to know that I have plans for you, that I have a calling for you. There are people that you come in contact with every single day that don't need to know you as the smart kid in class, that don't need to know you as just the person that wears a skirt, but they need to know you as the one who has truth, as the one that can change their life, as the one that can make all the difference in their life.